Good evening. Let's start out with our motivation. And let's look at how easily we get irritated, how easily something disturbs our peace of mind. And when we can't let these things go, then even a series of small things makes it so that our mind just stacks one irritation upon the other until we're about ready to explode. And so we have to ask ourselves, why do we allow these small things to irritate us? Where is our gentleness of heart or our generosity of spirit that can allow things to be the way they are without us constantly judging them or reacting to them or liking them or disliking them? In other words, how can we expand our hearts and minds so that we can let things be when they need to be let be? And of course, to respond and problem solve when things call for response and problem solving. But how can we generate some kind of generosity of spirit that accepts others and accepts our circumstances? And accepts ourselves. And so let's think of how we can do this. Because it's an essential ingredient to be able to generate bodhicitta. Because constant irritation really blocks generating love and compassion. And that irritation is coming from us. It's not coming from the outside. So maybe to make some determination to recite another kind of mantra that is, I'm not going to let this bug me. I'm not going to let my mind go towards irritation here. So last week we were talking about inferences, right? Were you observing some of your inferences this last week? Yeah, what did you find? What's an inference that you found? Honorable Darpa?
It morphed. It started at something like, I'm a failure because I'm not happy with how this is going, or something like that. And then I found the fear, and I said, I'm fearful because of the consequences that are something like that. And then I went to I'm fearful because I don't have control. And then I would try to reverse them all. And then...
Reverse them in what way?
Well, I was trying to examine, every time, does that mean every time you have fear, you have fear just because you're not in control? I mean, like, the things don't actually match up. Like, last week, you kind of, one had to, I don't know if it was, I didn't understand it well enough, one had to agree with the other. They had to go together. These didn't really, in ways.
Yeah, okay. Good. We'll come back to that syllogism as I'm explaining things. What else did people discover? What syllogisms do you have? Yeah?
If I'm not pushing myself to achieve something, I'm not worthwhile.
Oh.
That was very clear.
Yeah.
And I looked at the conditioning from schooling. And it was just managing pain while meditating. And I kept pushing against it. And it took me a week to figure out how to relax.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like the mind just didn't understand how to relax.
Yeah.
And that relaxing could be the solution. Yeah, something fundamental.
Because you were holding very strongly to the syllogism.
I must push to achieve.
Yeah. Okay, let's take that one, then we'll come back to yours. Okay, so before we go to that, do you remember the three criteria for a correct syllogism? Do you remember the parts? We had the subject and the predicate and the reason. And then the three criteria. First was that the reason had to apply to the subject. The second criterion was if it's the reason, then it's necessarily the predicate. That's called the pervasion. And the third criterion is if it's the opposite of the predicate, then it can't, let's see, it's, I have to do this, if it's the opposite of the predicate, then it's not the opposite of the reason. So if it's, I have to make an example in my mind to get this. Permanent if it's. Yeah, so if it's the opposite of the predicate, then it's not the opposite of the reason. Okay, but generally, if you just do the first two, then you've got it. Okay, so state your syllogism again.
If I'm not pushing myself to achieve something, I'm not worthwhile.
Okay, so let's make it, you can't have an if in there. You have to make it, I am not worthwhile because I'm not pushing myself to achieve something. Okay, so what's the subject? I, and the predicate? Not worthwhile. And the reason?
Because I'm not pushing myself.
Because I'm not pushing myself. Okay, so let's look at the agreement. Does the reason apply to the subject? So, I am not pushing myself.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so right now I'm not pushing myself. Yeah, so that one works. Then, the pervasion. If I'm not pushing myself, then I necessarily am not worthwhile.
Right.
Is that true?
No.
No. Okay? So that, we've been telling ourselves that syllogism. You know, if you're one of these high-achieving people, you've been telling yourself that syllogism since you were born, or shortly thereafter, and living your life based on that syllogism, and it's wrong. It's wrong. Yeah? Now, not everybody has that syllogism going, but some people have that one really strong. Okay, then Venerable Tarpas was, I am afraid because I'm not in control. Okay, so the subject, predicate, reason, not in control. Okay, so the agreement is what?
I'm afraid.
No, that's the thesis. What's the agreement? The first of the criteria.
I'm not in control.
I am not in control. Okay? So is that true? That you're not in control?
That was obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm not in control. Now, sometimes, actually, we don't like to admit the agreement.
Yeah.
What do you mean I'm not in control? Of course I'm in control. I've got to be in control. I'm going to make myself in control. You know? So here it is, the agreement, you know, I am not in control. But we don't believe that. We think that's wrong. Okay, so that creates a problem, first of all. Okay. Then, the pervasion would be
If I'm not in control, then I'm scared.
yeah, if I'm not in control, then I've got to be scared. Yeah? Now, is that true?
No.
Yeah. It's not true that if you're not in control, you've got to be scared. Why isn't it true?
You're never in control and you're not always scared.
Exactly. We're never in control and we're not always scared. Yeah? So why in a certain situation do we tell ourselves we have to be scared simply because we're not in control?
Well, really, what happens to me is I get angry. And then what I did is I was just so angry that I finally had to see what was under it. I never am very in touch with fear.
Yeah.
And then I finally touched into the fear, and then I thought, well, this is, I don't know why I came on doing this syllogism, and I thought, well, this is all ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you see that because, you know, you may not be in touch with the fear, but then when you get in touch with that, then you have to see what's the reason for the fear, and you discover this weird kind of syllogism under the whole thing. And then you have to see if your syllogism is accurate or not. Okay? What's another one that you tell yourself?
If I can't get everything done, I'm something negative.
I'm a failure.
A failure. Yeah.
Okay, so we have to make that into a syllogism. I am a failure because I don't get everything done. Okay, subject, predicate,
I'm a failure.
reason.
Because I don't get everything done.
Okay, what's the thesis?
I don't get everything done, therefore I'm a failure.
No, the thesis is the subject and the predicate together.
Oh, okay.
What you're trying to prove, I am a failure.
Failure.
That's the thesis, what you're trying to prove. Okay, now the agreement is the first of the criteria to see if it's true.
I don't get everything done.
I don't get everything done. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's, you know, sometimes we get it done, sometimes we don't, but often we don't. Then what's the pervasion?
Therefore, I'm a failure.
No. What's the pervasion?
I'm a failure because I don't get everything done.
No. There's the three criteria. This is the second criteria.
So if I don't get everything done, I'm a failure.
If I don't get everything done, I'm a failure. Okay, is that true?
No.
Why not? You're telling yourself it's true. One part of your mind is believing it's true. Why isn't that true?
Because to be a failure, you'd have to be a failure at everything.
Because what?
Because you're not failing at everything. You're just not getting that one thing accomplished. You're not a failure.
But why aren't you a failure if you can't get everything done?
Because you can't get everything all done.
You're never going to get
Never
everything all
get
done.
everything done. You're always in the process. You'd have to be a failure the whole time you were doing it.
Exactly.
Okay, so because we never finish everything.
Right.
Okay. But then somebody's going to say, well, I'm not talking about finishing everything. I'm talking about you know, just as a specific project, any project, I want to finish it, right? Or no, this one is on a specific day I don't get everything done. Yeah. Okay, so on that day I didn't get everything done. So why aren't I a failure?
Because the next day you get everything done.
Yeah, because the next day you can continue. Okay?
So you're just a failure that one day. This is not working so hard.
No. What? Okay.
Failure day one and not day two.
Because whatever it's done right. Instead of doing everything bad, you do one thing, but you do it right. So you're a success in what that you achieve.
Okay. So we can adjust our criteria of what we consider failure from volume to doing something correctly so that it's well done. Yeah. If we did that, then it's not true. I didn't get it. You know, if I don't get everything done, I'm a failure. Okay, why else isn't that true?
Sometimes they're just unrelated, but I don't know how to express it. They seem to be, there's no direct tie between the two in some way.
When we look at it, there's no direct tie, but in our mind there seems to be one.
Right.
Yeah, doesn't there?
Right.
Where did that direct tie come from?
Expectations.
Yeah, it's like a conditioning based on what we think that we should be able to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of assumptions in there about what we should be able to accomplish. And then we make a link between getting things done and being a success or being a failure.
And also we make that plan about what we're going to do in the day, but we never have any information about what actually is going to arise. Yeah. And so it doesn't go that way.
Yeah, so we make a plan, but we don't have all the factors there. So what use is it saying if I don't get everything done, I'm a failure?
It seems also that if you look at what the third criteria, like if I get everything done, that makes me a success.
No.
That doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah. No, the third criteria is if I'm not a failure, then I get everything done.
Then if I get everything
done,
then I'm not a failure.
No, if I'm not a failure, I get everything done.
Successful, then I get everything done.
Right. If I'm successful, I get everything done.
That doesn't seem to make any sense.
Yeah, that one doesn't make sense either. Although it seems in our mind somehow.
I don't see how that makes any sense.
Yeah, why not?
Successful, so I get everything done? How do you get everything done? How is that ever a possibility?
Yeah, okay.
It seems like successful and failure are just too big of an abstraction to be able to even meet, right?
Yeah,
like without any sort of qualification about what you're failing or succeeding at, then you won't ever meet those things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so success or failure are just these vague categories that we're somehow tying to getting everything done.
Like if your job was, if your job was, no, I can't even think about it. If it was something really specific.
100 widgets a day.
Right, yeah. 100 widgets a day, and you got 99. And does that mean
that you're a failure? A failure? What about being successful for the 99 you did?
Right. But then the idea of the failure, it just has so much more than just, couldn't get 100 done.
Right. So this is actually a very good point, that we make this huge, momentous thing of we're a failure or a success in life depend upon how many small things we get done. Is that reasonable? Stupidagio, isn't it? Yeah, that's not reasonable at all.
And what if they're all done wrong?
Right.
Well, I mean, they're all done, but they're not right.
Well, then they're not done. Yeah. So, although they teach this use of syllogisms, for doing reasonings to understand reality, I think it's very helpful to find out our own hidden syllogisms inside our mind and ask ourselves if these things are true, if these syllogisms are correct. Okay, somebody want to give another one? Something you tell yourself a lot?
If I make a mistake, no one will like me.
Okay, but that's not how, so set that up as a syllogism.
No one will like me.
No one will like me.
I'm not.
Because.
Okay, so you could do it two ways. No one will like me because I do things wrong. Or I am unliked because I do things wrong. Which one do you want to use?
The first one.
Okay, no one.
Everyone would be a better way to say that. Everyone won't like me.
Okay. Okay, everyone won't like me because I made a mistake. Okay, so subject,
Everyone
predicate,
won't like me
reason,
because I make mistakes.
thesis,
If I make a mistake,
thesis.
Everyone won't like me.
Everyone won't like me. The thesis is what you're trying to prove. Everyone won't like me.
Yeah, that's not even true.
Okay. Wait, we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't proved it yet. Okay, so what's the agreement? What's the agreement?
Because they make mistakes, people, everyone won't like me.
Well, actually, the agreement is everyone and I make mistakes. That doesn't work. I think we have to do I won't be liked because I make mistakes. Yeah, let's do it. I won't be liked. That makes it. So then in I won't be liked because I make mistakes, what's the agreement?
I make mistakes.
I make mistakes. Is that true? Yes.
Oh, I make mistakes.
Yeah, then what's the privation?
No one will like me.
The privation starts, you have to start with the reason. And if it's the reason, it is necessarily the predicate. So, and what would it be in this one?
I won't be liked.
If I make mistakes, I won't be liked. Is that true?
no.
Oh, it sure is. It is.
Well, then we're all not liked all the time.
This is what we say to ourselves. It is true. If I make mistakes, people won't like me. Is that really true? No. But we think it's true sometimes, don't we?
Yes.
And we really believe it's true.
Yes.
But when we stop and ask ourselves, is it really true? If I make mistakes, no one will like me. Or I won't be liked. Yeah, then we see it's not really true. If I make mistakes, then I necessarily won't be liked. Do you believe that or not?
I'm ambivalent.
What? I what?
I said I'm ambivalent because in the short term, at any rate, I can think of examples where people don't like you.
Now, do people really not like you when you make mistakes? Or do they not like the mistakes you made?
They don't like the mistakes you made.
They don't like the mistakes you made. If
They act like it's you.
like me. So if in their foolishness they confuse you with the action you did and don't like you because of the action, then whose difficulty is that? Theirs. Okay. Or sometimes you say it is true. I mean, even though it is their difficulty, if I make mistakes, they won't like me. Okay? Then you have to ask yourself, you know, like, okay, that's their difficulty, and they don't like me. Then you have to say, so what? Okay, why is everybody liking me so important? So what's the syllogism? I must be liked because what?
Because that proves my worth.
Proves that I don't make mistakes.
No, it doesn't prove you don't make mistakes. I must be liked because then I'm worthwhile.
And then I have value.
Yeah, then I have value. I'm worthwhile. Okay.
8 worldly concerns.
It sure is the 8 worldly concerns, isn't it?
One of these.
Well, thanks and reputation.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to distinguish that.
Yeah, but it's right there, isn't it? Yeah, I must be liked because that makes me, you know, that makes me worthwhile. Or if you make it into just an if statement, if I am liked, therefore I am worthwhile. We tell ourselves that a lot. If somebody likes me, therefore I am worthwhile. Is that true?
No.
But how many times in our life have we made decisions believing that that's true? Many times, haven't we? If somebody likes me, then I'm worthwhile. We examine it with reason. It's clearly not true. But how many times in our life have we made decisions and done actions based on believing that? A lot, haven't we? If somebody likes me, then I am worthwhile. That's dangerous to think that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Can you think of some things you did based on believing that to be true? Somebody want to give an example?
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be worthwhile if I get a PhD.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But here it's if we want to show how if somebody likes me, it means I'm worthwhile.
Like me if I get a PhD.
Yeah, okay. So my dad will approve of me if I get a PhD. Yeah?
No, my father will love me if I get a PhD.
My father will love me if I get a PhD. Mm. And then...
That's how our mind works.
Hmm?
I said that's how our mind works.
Yes.
Is it
Isn't
all
it?
school based on that? Not my eyes.
Middle school, high school.
Yeah?
No, not for me.
What?
High school.
High school.
I didn't give a damn what happened in high school.
Yeah. But then afterwards, you know, if I get a PhD, then my parents will love me. Mm-hmm.
My father.
Your father, okay. Yeah. And so making a decision based on believing that to be true.
I wasted a lot of time.
Yeah.
Not only time, but relationships, happiness, transformation.
Yeah. But it's good that you see it and learn from it. Yeah. And then other people have that same syllogism of, if I get a PhD, my father will love me. And instead of trying to aim for the PhD, they say, if he's going to love me just because of that, I'm going to do the exact opposite. You know, who does he think he is, loving me because of that? And I'm going to show him, you know, his criteria are completely wrong, and I'm going to do the exact opposite. Isn't it? Yeah. Some people have that syllogism in their mind and then, you know, react to it in a totally different way. Yeah, which is equally nonsensical, isn't it? Yeah.
It's very painful.
Huh?
It's very painful.
Very painful, isn't it? Yeah. I'm going to show them that, you know, their syllogism is wrong.
Well, I'm wondering, like, just because the syllogism's right doesn't mean that it's healthy. Like, it seems that sometimes we reinforce syllogisms that are actually accurate, but it's an unhealthy practice.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, I'm trying to kind of ferret one out, but the only one that comes to mind is like, I am an accomplished meditator because I have attained, say, shamatha. Mm-hmm. So that might be accurate in a sense, but it definitely could reinforce like pride.
Right.
In a very unhealthy way.
Right. Okay. So you could say, I am an accomplished meditator because I have actualized shamatha. And, you know, and that is true. But if you have a deluded mind, that could just reinforce your negativities, couldn't it?
It seems like it's also backed by another, like, it would still be backed up with like another syllogism of like, well, if I am an accomplished meditator, then I'm a good person.
Yeah,
like
right.
Or I'm special, yeah.
Right, yeah, if I'm an accomplished meditator, I'm special. But also, that syllogism isn't complete because, you know, I am an accomplished meditator because I've actualized shamatha. Does actualizing shamatha alone make you a good meditator, make you a good Dharma practitioner?
Well, not necessarily Dharma practitioner, but like if you're talking about like the concentration meditation, then you are accomplished at that if you can achieve shamatha. In that sense, you may not be a good person.
But you see, there's an assumption that good meditator implies good person.
Yeah.
So you have to clarify that.
Skewed.
Yeah, because you have to clarify that good meditator doesn't mean good person. Right? Yeah, because like you said, you can have accomplished that and be quite rotten. Yeah.
There shouldn't be any pride involved.
Right. So we shouldn't say that I am a good person because I'm a good meditator. That's where we run into trouble, because that's not true. Because if I'm a good meditator, that isn't the only criteria necessary to make me a good person. Yeah. Okay, so in some of the ones like that, like you pointed out, where it seems to make sense, but actually it's not necessarily healthy or completely accurate, we need to go underneath and really look and see if the syllogism is set up correctly, and if all the parts are really there, you know, and being understood correctly.
It seems like a lot of us, how all parts of it are defined. Because some of them like that one, you could say, I'm going to accomplish something more that relates just to, narrows it down to concentration.
Well, another example is like, I will be the fastest person if I can run a mile in under, I don't know what the record is.
Yeah.
And there may be someone who accomplishes that and thinks in their mind, yes, I will be the fastest person if I can do this.
Right.
And they're accurate in that syllogism.
Right.
But it could be reinforcing some really unhealthy things.
That's because there's the assumption of if I'm the fastest person, then I'm special, then I'm good, then I'm worthwhile. Okay? So here what you have is two syllogisms. Okay?
There's a hidden.
there's another, you know, I am the fastest person because I ran the mile under a minute or something. And then there's the syllogism, I am worthwhile because I'm the fastest person. So you have to look at both syllogisms. Okay, because the first one might be true, but the second one is not true. Why isn't the second one true? I am a worthwhile person because I'm the fastest runner.
Because there are a lot of worthwhile people who are not the fastest runners.
No, but that doesn't make any. One has nothing to do with the other. Being the fastest runner has nothing to do with being a good person. Yeah, it has nothing to do with it.
I found out that my father loved me whether I got the PhD or not.
He found out that he loved you whether you got a PhD or not, right? What'd you say?
It had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with it. Yeah, a reason that's totally unrelated. Yeah, and yet believing there was a relationship.
Yeah, I like
I think that
Yeah.
is, I think when I look back at the one that Zopa was talking about, then the idea of being a failure has this feeling of never being able to improve again, and that's not true.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we say the word failure and it has this sense of doomed.
Right, we'll never be better.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is an interesting way to learn how to use syllogisms, to learn the parts of the syllogism, aren't they? Yeah. They usually teach sound is impermanent because it's a product of causes. But our syllogisms, you know, are much more interesting and thought-provoking, aren't they? Yeah. Somebody want to give another one?
I attend the retreat because I like this topic.
But you have to, it has to be, okay, I will attend the retreat
Because I like
this topic. Okay, so
The thesis is I like this topic.
I like this topic. Okay, no, that's the thesis is I will attend the retreat. Okay, then the agreement is I like this topic, and then the pervasion is
if I don't like this topic, I will not come here.
no, that's not the pervasion. The pervasion is if I like the topic, then I will attend the retreat.
That's
Or I like the topic, so
Yeah. If I like the topic, I will attend the retreat. Again, does that have anything to do? Not necessarily, does it? Yeah? Okay. Do you have another one?
Yeah, I deserve something because I worked hard for it.
Oh,
Runs through.
okay. How about, what do you deserve? What? Recognition?
Actually, I was thinking about how in India, like, I deserve that seat because I queued for 2 hours. And this makes me so angry.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. See.
I deserve that thing because I worked for it.
Yeah, I deserve that because I work for it. Okay, subject? Predicate? Deserve that thing. Reason?
Because I worked hard for it.
Because I worked hard for it. Thesis?
I worked hard for it.
I deserve what I work hard for.
I deserve
that thing.
I deserve that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, the thesis is the subject plus the predicate. Okay, then the agreement? I worked hard for it. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. Then the pervasion is?
I worked hard for the thing I deserve.
Now, pervasion. All of our pervasions have started with the word if, So
If I work hard for it, I should get it. Yeah.
if I work hard for it, I deserve it. Okay, if I work hard for it, I deserve it. Is that true?
No.
Well, it sure is true.
Well, it should be, but
This is the foundation of America. If I work hard for it, I deserve it. Yeah, our whole country is based on that. The capitalism is based on that. If I work hard for it, I deserve it. That's the whole foundation of what we're doing. Is it true?
No. It can't be.
No. Why isn't it true?
I think the thesis was wrong. What was it?
I deserve this.
I deserve this. Yeah.
Yeah, because I worked hard for it.
Yeah.
Oh, the whole thing is the thesis.
No, the thesis is I deserved it.
Right, so that doesn't make sense as a thesis.
Yeah, well, it does, because we go through life saying, I deserve this, and I deserve that, and I deserve that. Why? Because I worked hard for it.
It doesn't have to make sense. It's what you're trying to do.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. All right.
Right, we're trying to prove the thesis, to see if the thesis is true. I deserve this because I worked hard for it. So if you work hard for it, it means you deserve it. It means you should get it.
No.
It's not true because you don't get everything.
You may deserve it, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it. They're two different things. Deserving something and actually getting it are two different actions.
Mm-hmm. But if you...
Therefore you do deserve it.
No, but if you work hard for something, should you get it?
Should you?
Or will you get it?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. But do we make it, if I work hard for something, I will get it? Or if I work hard for something, I should get it?
I think the word should.
We usually put should. Yeah.
we usually mean will in our minds.
Right.
Yeah. If you say, if I work hard for something, I will get it, is that true? No. If I work hard for something, I should get it. We buy that one, hook, line, and sinker. Okay? We put a should in there when there's actually a will. Yeah? I should, we say, I should get it because I worked hard for it, as if the world owed it to us.
I mean,
A farmer can work hard for his crops, but then could lose everything.
Right. Yeah, people can work very hard for things that they don't get.
because we really often feel we deserve it.
Right. We feel very strongly, I deserve it. And that a rule of the universe is if I work hard for it, I should get it. That's a rule of our universe. Okay?
What do we mean by
Isn't that
deserve?
like the nonviolent, based on all that is a wrong conception of language since thousands of years ago, like deserving things, that actually there's no deserving things.
Well, that gets into a whole other issue of what does deserve things mean? Yeah, what does it mean to deserve something?
Does it mean you will get it or that you should get it?
Or does it mean that the world owes it to you?
I should. It means I should get it.
I should get it, yeah.
But
And why should I get it?
Because I
Because I'm me. If we say, Joe deserved this because he worked hard for it, do we believe that one as much as we believe I deserve it because I worked hard for it? No.
Tightly connected to it.
Not unless Joe's very connected to me.
Well, he's got to be your friend. I mean, he can be connected and be your enemy.
Yeah. But it's quite interesting how we put these syllogisms together, isn't it? And how we mix the meaning, and instead of will, we put should. Yeah, or instead of should, we put will. Either way. Yeah. And then the things we believe that aren't necessarily true. I worked hard for it, therefore I should get it. Therefore I will get it. Therefore the world owes it to me. Therefore, I have the right to get angry if the world doesn't come through.
Therefore, I have the right to steal it if they do.
Right. Therefore, I have the right to take it to steal it because I actually deserve it because it's really mine.
It's mine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. That's the syllogism. I have the right to steal this because I worked hard for it, and I didn't get it, and they didn't give it to me. Yeah. And is that true, that if I work hard for it and they don't give it to me, therefore I have the right to steal it? No. We tell ourselves it is, and that's how we wind up in jail. Yeah. We tell ourselves that.
Or we take things from our employers based on that, like, I'll take these pens, this paper.
Well, that's what I mean, and that's the reason behind it. So it's the reason behind stealing, embezzling, all these kinds of things. But the way of thinking is totally faulty.
Yeah. It's a weird way of thinking about justice, Yeah.
Yeah.
This totally skewed view about how reality is.
Yeah, but how often do we? A lot. I'll tell you an example. There's somebody who wants to move to the Abbey, and she was once in another monastic community, and it didn't work out. And she wrote me something like, surely if people are working very hard, they get time off to relax, don't they? And she was writing to me. Yeah. And this person had previously told me that they sometimes have a predilection for kind of whining. So I said, I just detected, maybe something that you're going to whine about. That, that you have a thing of, I deserve this time off and everything, and you're going to whine if you don't get it. And she wrote back and said, you're absolutely right, because I used to say at the other monastery that I was at, I worked very hard, and I even gave up my Saturdays and Sundays, and I didn't get any time off. Therefore, I have a right to feign sickness. Yeah. And so sometimes feigning sickness, meaning like I'm a little bit tired, but that becomes, I'm so exhausted and I don't feel well at all. Yeah. And the syllogism behind that was, I have the right to some time off. I have the right to feign sickness and get time off because, I want it, basically. But the syllogism in her mind is, because I work so hard and, I don't have any time.
So, Venerable, you deserve better candidates for ordination than that.
Because? Because I have that thesis, but I'm trying to come up with the reason. And every reason I try, I can't get a perfect syllogism.
I can't help you with that.
Okay.
It's true.
Well, we can't prove it unless we have a reason. Okay. And I can't find one, so I don't know if it's really true. Anyway, shall we get back to the kinds of... Okay, so I think you got the idea about syllogisms? Subject, predicate, reason, and then the criteria, you have to have agreement and you have to have privation. Okay?
What's the third one?
The third one is the counter-privation. In other words, if it's not the predicate, it's not the reason. But let me just do this. Okay, sound is existent because it's impermanent. Okay, if it's not existent, it's not impermanent. That's true. Okay. Yeah. So then it would be, if it's not the predicate, it's not the reason. Yeah. If it's not the predicate, it's not the reason. That's the third one.
What's the second one?
If it is the reason, then it is the predicate. Okay, so second one, if it is the reason, it is the predicate. Third one, if it's not the predicate, it's not the reason.
If it is the reason, it is the predicate?
Yeah.
You know, the third one sounds a lot like, from Aristotelian logic.
Yeah.
You know, the fallacy of negating the consequent. You know, if...
I'm not familiar with Aristotelian logic.
I don't know if this is relevant.
I know there's some relationship between this and that, but I'm...
Finish it then.
Okay.
If, for example, if I drink 3 martinis, I'll be drunk.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not drunk. Therefore, I didn't drink 3 martinis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I could be drunk by drinking lots of beer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is all new to me.
Yeah.
I'd have to, over the weeks we've been talking about, it hasn't soaked in.
Yeah. You have to think about it.
Well, I'd have to read it.
Right.
And think about it.
Uh-huh.
But nonetheless, it sounds a lot like, and you've confirmed that there's some...
Yeah, there's some terms, what's it called? The pervasion corresponds to the minor premise. Okay, the presence of the subject in the reason, the agreement, corresponds to the major premise. The pervasion corresponds to the minor premise. And the counter-pervasion corresponds to the contrapositive of the minor premise.
I'm sorry, that doesn't...
Okay. Well, that's what it says. Okay. Okay, so doing that kind of syllogism is the inference by power of the fact. Okay, so there's three, sometimes 4 kinds of inference. So this one, inference by power of the fact, is the one that we really use a lot, that is very, very important, because this is the one we use to prove subtle impermanence, to prove emptiness, to prove rebirth, to prove the possibility of attaining awakening. All these things are proved by the inference by power of the fact.
Fact of what?
Well, you got to see the individual syllogism, because the quality is, how did they say it? Now it was somewhere. Where is it? Mm-hmm. You comprehend a meaning that abides in the object.
That's what power of the fact is?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's established by the power of the thing itself. So by the power of the reason itself, that reason applies.
When you say object,
Okay.
we're not talking about a physical object, we're talking about reasoning.
Right, in the object. I think the object means the power of the renown. Yeah, I think I don't know, to tell you the truth. Okay? But it's like if you say the person is empty because it's a dependent arising. Well, that's there's something factual about that. It's a fact that the person is a dependent arising. It's a fact that if it's a dependent arising, it's empty. In other words, there's no kind of leap of faith. There's no painting anything Okay, let me tell you the other kinds of syllogisms, and maybe it becomes a little clearer. The second kind of syllogism is inference by renown, and so that would be, okay, it means that consciousness realizes that it's suitable to express an object by a certain term because it exists among the objects of thought. Okay? So yeah, I know these things are so clear. The Tibetans have a name for the moon that's called rabbit possessor. Because they don't see a man in the moon, they see a rabbit in the moon. Okay? So they say the rabbit possessor is suitable to be called moon because it's amongst objects of thoughts. In other words, because you can designate different terms to different things, it's suitable for all of us to consider the rabbit possessor to be a moon.
So
okay?
That answers the Honorable John Poe's question. You said it.
I think so. Maybe, but I didn't catch that.
Well,
he asked whether it had to be an object.
Yeah, but that was the inference by power of the fact.
We've moved on.
Yeah, and we've moved on. So that was inference by the renown. Then another kind of inference they talk about sometimes is inference by analogy or example or illustration, something like that. So that would be like understanding something due to somebody's explaining to you what it's like?
Like a commentary.
No, more like, what George would do with the building. And it's like, okay, there's going to be a gable here, and there's going to be a gable there, and then the subfloor is going to be here, and he describes it, and because due to that, then you understand what the building's going to look like. Okay? Or it could be you've never been to a place, and maybe somebody gives you a little model of it. Like I have, when I was in Indonesia, somebody gave me a little model of the Borobudur stupa, so somebody could look at that and then get an idea of what the stupa looks like. So that would be like inference by an example or an illustration or something. And then the fourth kind of inference, or third kind, depending on how many you list, is inference by authority. Okay, or authoritative inference. And so this one I want to talk a little bit more about, okay? So remember we were saying last time, like our birthday, we have to trust what our parents tell us. They're the authorities. So there's some things in the teachings that we can't understand by inference, by power of the fact. And so we have to rely on the Buddha's testimony. Okay? So then the question comes, well, why should we believe the Buddha? Okay? And this is a good question, especially because so many of us grew up in other religions where we believed something because it was said in that religion, and then we came to the conclusion that that was wrong, that we believed something incorrectly. So we tend to be quite skeptical and not just believe something because it's written in some scripture or because some person said it. Okay? So if like Dharmakirti said, you can believe a certain thing if the person themselves is reliable. So if they, have correct knowledge, if other things they've told you, along the same line has been true, if they have no reason to lie, if they have compassion and care for you, so they're going to do their best, So these kind of criteria that make somebody into a reliable person. So it is true that sometimes in our lives we tell ourselves somebody's a reliable person, but we don't really have all the reasons together that make them a reliable person. Okay? Sometimes maybe somebody has most of the reasons, but not all of them. So then we might say, okay, I'll really lend more credence to what this person is going to say, but I'm still going to check up. Yeah? And then some people, we don't have any credence in their authority and we kind of dismiss it right away, which sometimes is not so good because sometimes they might have some good information. Okay? But, okay, so to correctly infer that a scriptural passage is accurate and free from fault, we have to test it by means of a threefold analysis. And it's now 8 o'clock. Should I go over?
Yes.
Should I go over? Okay, I'll keep going. Okay, so the first reason is there's no reason to reject this scripture in terms of how it presents evident phenomena. Okay, remember when we were talking about the three kinds of phenomena: evident phenomena, manifest phenomena. So if in this scripture, whenever it talks about evident things that are evident to our senses, that it happens to be right, that's one criteria that shows, okay, you know, that's a plus point. It's not the only criteria. But, you know, definitely if what it says in terms of evident phenomena isn't correct, then we're certainly not going to believe, you know, that passage. Then the second criteria, there's no reason to reject this statement or the text in terms of its presentation of slightly obscure phenomena. So to assess this, we examine if its presentation of slightly obscure phenomena can be refuted by inference by the power of the fact. Okay? So you test the text or the statement, and you see if other things it says, you know, make sense or not. Then the third one is there's no reason to reject this criteria or text in terms of its reject this statement or text, sorry, in terms of its presentation of very obscure phenomena. So very obscure phenomena are the ones that we need to rely on authority. So it seems like it's kind of a circle. Okay, but wait a minute. There's two criteria here under this one on how to examine things. So one is in the presentation of very obscure phenomena, you look and you see the explicit and the implicit meanings are free from contradiction. So the explicit meaning is the evident theme of the scripture, while the implicit meaning is the other topics that are the basis. So for example, in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, the explicit meaning is emptiness, the implicit meaning is the stages of the path. So does its explanation of those two things contradict each other? No. Okay, so that's part of the reason to see that it doesn't it's reliable in terms of obscure phenomena. The other one is, in the presence of very obscure phenomena, the former and latter passages are free from contradiction. That is, if what the sutra says in one place does not contradict what it says in another place. Okay, so that makes sense, because if a scripture contradicts itself, then it's not going to be so reliable. Okay, so there are those two criteria to help us see that it doesn't contradict, you know, that it's reliable in terms of obscure phenomena.
There's some Mahayana scriptures that seem quite contradictory in the sense of evident phenomena. Talking about bodhisattvas or you know, all kinds of things that seem to be quite...
Okay, well, okay, so, you know, a Mahayana scripture that's talking about Amitabha's Pure Land and how many bodhisattvas there are and stream enters.
Or like the Heart Sutra we chant, and they're talking about how many monks and nuns were on the mountain with Rajgir.
Well, he doesn't say how many monks and nuns are on the mountain. It's just how many beings Okay, so then the thing is, some of those are very high-level bodhisattvas who are manifesting, who are sitting in the sky. They aren't sitting right there, because His Holiness says actually, if you look at the place, at Rajgir where the Heart Sutra was spoken, there's not enough room there for all the people it says attended, But the way he explains this is that a lot of them were high-level bodhisattvas who didn't have gross bodies, so they, were able to appear and, they filled all of space around us. Okay? So there's those kind of explanations. There, in that kind of thing, you have to see, because we also have a kind of reasoning in our mind. If I can't see it, it doesn't exist. Is that true? If I can't see it, it doesn't exist? No.
Those are because of the limited perception, right? Then the very obscure phenomena, then you would have a bigger perception or like a different perception to be able to see the different things.
Yeah. So for many of the things that for us are very obscure phenomena, for a high-level bodhisattva would be an evident phenomena. Yeah? If you're a high-level bodhisattva, you can see Amitabha's Pure Land and you can see all the people there. For us, so it's an evident phenomena for them. For us, it's a very obscure phenomena.
Doesn't it speak to karma? Isn't it what Jeffrey Hopkins was saying? Oh, you weren't here the other day, but he was saying that it was the inference of the bowl of fluid in relationship to karma was seen in different ways by different beings because of our own karma and obscuration.
Yeah, that's true.
So that would be
but that's a little bit different than what we're talking about here, as far as, unless you can draw it. Okay, so if a scripture meets these three criteria, accepting its statements as true will give us access to knowledge that's useful for our Dharma practice. So what I find interesting here is the idea, why do we want to use this kind of inference? In order to get knowledge or information that's useful to us. The reason for using inference by authority is not to coerce everybody into believing the same thing. Okay? And that's very interesting because many of us, come to Buddhism, and when we hear the Buddha said so, then we go, here's this catechism, everybody's trying to make me believe in the same thing, and it's a group think, and I'm going to believe just the opposite. We're like that sometimes, Don't you tell me what to believe. If you do, I'm going to deliberately believe just the opposite. Which is, we do, but it's really dumb, isn't it? Because the whole idea of this is not to coerce us into believing something that isn't true. The idea of this kind of inference is to get access to information that might be useful to us. Okay? So one example is a statement in Nagarjuna, in Precious Garland, that from giving comes wealth, from ethical conduct comes a good rebirth. Okay? So there's a debate about whether that is slightly hidden or very hidden. There's some discussion about that, but let's say it's very hidden. Okay? So that would be a statement that it would be very useful to our Dharma practice to be able to see if that's a reliable statement, because that would really influence our behavior, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. Because if from generosity comes wealth and from ethical conduct comes a good rebirth, that is something that would be very useful to know, because then we could make decisions about what we want to do and what we don't want to do. And we can't see the results of these actions ourselves. We don't have that clairvoyant ability to see, okay, somebody did this and here's the result. So we trust the Buddha in that. You know, and it kind of makes sense too, doesn't it? That if you're generous, it comes back to you. If you're ethical and don't harm, that it results in your having, you know, kind of a good rebirth. Those things kind of make sense to us. And then, you know, we use the inference by the power of authority to believe in them because that benefits us. Okay? So you can see that believing these, you know, certain scriptural statements and seeing them as reliable, the whole purpose is to help us. Yeah? It's not to, you know, make us believe, to control our minds and make us believe something that isn't true. Okay? So I think that's an important thing to try and be aware of in this whole thing. Because sometimes our mind can have real resistance to things, can't it? Yeah? Okay? So then the question may come up, well, you know, Vasubandhu talks about, you know, the earth being flat and, you know, the sun revolving around the earth. And so, you know, what about that? Okay, well, what he said there can be clearly disproven. Yeah, because what he said that the sun and the moon are certain distances from the earth, and nowadays modern science has proven that they aren't those distances, you know, and he said that those things revolve around the earth, and modern science has been able to prove that, well, yes, the moon revolves around the earth, but the earth revolves around the sun. Okay, so you've been able to disprove some of those things, and so then, you know, that statement you clearly don't believe. Yeah? Okay, now there are some people who have so much faith in Vasubandhu that they say, well, actually it's still true, you know, that the scientists are wrong. And I remember we had one of our teachers did that. Excellent Geshe, fantastic Geshe. But he really believed the world was flat. And one of the nuns brought him a globe, and she had calculated, because in the scriptures it said that certain number of, you know, measurement below Bodh Gaya was the hell realm. And so she showed him, you know, that below Bodh Gaya that much, you know, came out to somewhere in the U.S. You know, and that was the hell realm. Yeah. But I think actually what finally convinced him is on a phone call when he called one of his Geshe friends in India, and his friend said, it's dark here, and he was saying, but it's daylight here. And then, by the testimony of his friend, you know, he began to say, oh, well, maybe. Okay?
So he was living by a syllogism that whatever Vasubandhu said was true.
Was right. Right. And His Holiness very painstakingly, many, many times in teachings, goes through His Holiness's own reason why that is not true.
So does that mean everything that Vasubandhu?
No, it doesn't mean everything Vasubandhu said. But in terms of his cosmology, yeah. Okay, but then you also have to think that, you know, the Buddha didn't appear and Vasubandhu wasn't here to be an astronomer. That wasn't their purpose to teach astronomy. You know, they were teaching according to the culture of that time. Yeah. So, you know, we still offer the mandala, don't we? When we chant it, you know, we still offer that whole thing. Actually, a friend of mine wrote a new version of the mandala offering. Do we have Rob Priest's book?
We have Perfection, but I'm not sure.
I can't remember which book it's in. It's in the one where he talks about the Nundro practices. Okay, if you can find that, there's a different version of the mandala offering that he wrote in there. Okay, so I think we better end. But think some more about all these inferences, okay? Yeah, especially related to your life.